No, you just rediscovered dead cells and now you have to hurry up and record a league. Hello folks, Phil Gallagher aka ThrabenU here for another legacy video. And today I turned to Twitter and I was like, Twitter, what do I record with today? Give me something spicy. And Zach from Eternal Durdles hooked me up. And we're going to be playing something that is basically 8cast. That is an artifact-themed deck fueled by Thoughtcast and Thought Monitor. However, we're calling this exact build of it 80cast, as we're not playing 60 cards, we're going to play 80 cards so that we get access to a Yorion companion. Now, Yorion to me is not a particularly exciting card at this point. It's actually a few other things in this deck list that caught my eye. Including a few cards that I myself had to look up. I've never seen an Elvish Archivist in play. If an artifact enters the battlefield under our control, we get 2+1/+1 counters on this creature. This only triggers once per turn, but kind of think of this somewhere on the lines of a Patchwork Automaton in terms of scaling. But there's another ability. Whenever one or more enchantments enter the battlefield under your control, you also get to draw a card. Again, triggers once a turn. But this is going to be particularly sweet when paired with something like Urza Saga, that is both an enchantment and makes artifacts. Note here that this is once per turn. You can trigger this on your own turn by casting some artifact spell, and then activate an Urza Saga on your opponent's turn to go and get another set of +2/+2 counters. Tameshi Reality Architect is another card that I had never seen before. Whenever one or more non-creature permanents are returned to hand, draw a card. This triggers only once a turn. That doesn't sound good, but hold on. For a white and X, you can return a land you control, triggering portion number 1, to its owner's hand. Then return target artifact or enchantment card with mana value X or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Activate this only as a sorcery. So, you know when you're playing 8cast and Emry gets to just get you exactly what you need back from the graveyard every turn? This is another card that can do that, and it can do that while also drawing you some cards. Notably, this targets an artifact or an enchantment, meaning that you could bring back that Urza Saga that your opponent had trouble dealing with the first time around. So this is pretty legitimately interesting to me. The final thing in this deck list that really caught my eye is Urza's Workshop. This is a land that taps for 3 mana. Okay, it obviously doesn't do that. You have to work a little bit for it, but as long as you have Metalcraft, as long as you control 3 or more artifacts, which we usually should in this deck, this can go and start tapping for a whole bunch of mana. So in the late game, where you control multiple Urza's Workshops, this thing can get out of control, and it can kind of be sort of like a Tron land. I don't really want to compare it to, like, you know, the true vintage Workshop, because the power gap is pretty big. But in the late game, you know, maybe you use this to cast some Thought Monitors some portion of the time, or something like that. I would love to live the dream of tapping this for 3 or 4 mana at some point during this league, but let's go ahead and take a look at the whole deck list here. Now, today's video is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., Moxfield.com, as well as Eminence Gaming. If you need paper magic cards, like our good friend Elvish Archivist, check out Cool Stuff Inc. and use promo code ThrabenU to save 5% on your order. Okay, so here is the deck list in all of its glory. We've got blue, we've got black, we've got green, and I suppose we also have white, counting Tameshi's activated abilities. But honestly, this is like a base blue deck that has a couple of cards that you intend on casting off a Mox Opal or a Lotus Petal or even a Spire of Industry. The cards that have the non-blue symbols, generally speaking, are not the most central cards to your deck list, but they're still good. And we are just going to play a few good cards that aren't necessarily fully on theme with the whole 8cast affinity for artifact sorts of things that we've got going on here. It's Legacy. Bowmasters is really just that good right now. Yeah, otherwise the traditional 8 cast shell is absolutely here, and I don't think I have a lot else to say. Other than just thanks to Kevin for giving me a dealer's choice donation deck list to find something spicy to play for the channel. Alright, let's battle. Alright, turn 1 island, turn 2 spire, patchwork, lotus petal. We'll have 2 artifacts in play. I think this is a below average power level hand. I would keep something like this on 6 mana. Artifact 1, Artifact 2. As soon as I get Artifact 3, I am off to the races. Any artifact, any colored land, or Urza Saga turns this into a great hand. Emry is good. This hand is currently worse than my first 6, but will probably end up being better. I'm going to lead on this in case I rip another artifact land specifically. Then I have Metalcraft on. Alright, we're playing against a blue deck. Alright, fantastic. A little weird still. I think I don't try to maximize Elvish Archivist here. Maybe I still play it, though. And then I trigger it off of Strix next turn and start working towards Thought Monitor. I can, like, play Petal, play this, Mox Opal, put 2 counters on it immediately. But then I am down this forever. The Mox Opal is turned off. I'm an artifact lower for something like Thought Monitor as well. Got a little rose in a jar. Okay. Also, I just kind of think this is going to eat a Swords to Plowshares at end of turn anyway, so yeah. There's not a strong point in trying to optimize for damage when I expect that to happen. Ooh. I'm just going to start on Strix, though, rather than starting on anything else here. How much do these cost? These cost 3. I think I am fine losing the Lotus Petal to fire off one of these this turn. Just in case you've never seen this interaction before, when you start casting the spell, your cost is locked in. So I can reduce the cost of the spell by 1 with Lotus Petal, and then pay for the Thought Monitor using the Lotus Petal as well. Is that a Grixis one? Yeah, that's a Grixis one. So my opponent might be, like, up the beanstalk, leyline binding sort of control. That's kind of what I'm anticipating after seeing that. Okay, sure. Alright. It's probably just Kappa Cannoneer time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And this thing is a pain in the butt if my opponent doesn't Force of Will it. Which they did not. Now, Terminus exists, Supreme Verdict exists, Land Drop plus Swords to Plowshares exists. But I could hit my opponent for a very large amount with this card next turn. More than the Uro is going to gain, just for sure. Sure. Now, whether or not my opponent can just deal with the Kappa the following turn, that's a whole nother thing. 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 5 artifacts, so this costs 1. This costs 2. I'll probably make this cost 1. I play this first. Ooh. Yes. I think I do this now. Okay. Kappa grows. Or the Plowshares specifically is off. Kappa gets bigger. Do I just play Emry? Probably playing Emry makes me better versus, like, double Prismatic Ending or, like, Prismatic Ending plus Leyline Binding or something like that. I'm just gonna ship in with the Kappa. Right. Opponent's at 15. Opponent is drawing a land if they don't fetch. Would love to draw Force of Will. Negative. It is my intention to block with Baleful Strix when Uro attacks. Seems like my opponent has a removal spell. I'm still going to block the Uro. I don't want to take a hit for 6. I do have an Emry in graveyard that I can use to recycle stuff. Okay, this was expected. Oh, my opponent is taking out the Chalice. Alright. Terminus could be coming reasonably. Alright, not immediately. Supreme Verdict could still be pretty bad. Ponders are fine. It looks like that Chalice was going to quietly do a whole lot of work. Tameshi can start doing some very interesting stuff. This is not a tap ability, so I can play this the turn that Tameshi comes down. Alright, a new Uro. That's fine. Wasteland's very good for my opponent. Assuming they can, you know, fuel some other nonsense. This is 7 initial damage. I think I just... How much? 1, 2, 3, 4 artifacts. Yeah, so a Thought Monitor is fine. I think I'm not going to commit Urza Saga immediately. I'm probably playing Urza Saga. Actually, I'm confident enough that I'm playing Urza Saga that I'm going to leave up a blue mana. I'll take my draw 2 here. Force of Negation is fantastic. I am going to swing in for 10. We have lethal next turn. I am looking to dodge Supreme Verdict, but I now have Terminus covered with Force of Negation. Oh my gosh, it's a Terminus. It's a little awkward that I have to give up the Tameshi in order to do this, because if my opponent like forces back, this is real bad for me. Tameshi was going to be my thing to refuel. It is a Force of Negation right back. Okay. I still have Urza Saga, but, you know, this is looming. I can play Patchwork Automaton and make a sorcery speed construct token, and as long as I'm fine doing that, I can have 2 bodies and be better versus spot removal. It's really awkward if this gets forced. So make a mana, cast this, scale up you, keep this one, use the floating mana to make a token. So I'm now worse versus Supreme Verdict, better versus Uro, and better versus single spot removal spell. Unfortunately, despite the fact that I had 5 mana, I wasn't really in a situation to hold up Force of Will. And we still haven't run out of gas to the point that we want to put the Yorion into hand, which I guess is a good sign. Alright, there's Uro. Opponent's back to 13. And I guess we're hoping to dodge a swords or other spot removal spell here. Honestly, another sweeper is just worse for me. Alright. Make my duder. Search up. And Pithing Needle to Fairy? I can have Shadow Spear, so Uro just doesn't punk me. I think I like Pithing Needle to Fairy. So that makes this a 6/6. This makes this a 7/7. And thus fit for an attack. A Source of Plowshares here is brutal. Alright. Yeah, that's the one thing I didn't want to happen, because I lose this construct, then this is a 6/6, so these trade. Then that Uro probably comes back next turn. Take a look at something over there. Yorion revealed. That's really annoying. Draw blue card. Nice. Yeah, so if my opponent goes to the draw 3, I cash this in. I also might need to cash it in on an Uro. Not equipped to beat it as of right now. Alright. So this resolves. My Patchwork Automaton doesn't do any damage. My opponent gains 3 life and draws a card and can start attacking me for 6. I am going to treat this as a tempo play. Ugh. This is rough. So now turn 8, my opponent's still at 14 life. And I expect that I'm done. I'm going to keep playing this one. Like, I think the game is over, but I have some crazy possible sequences of draws that involve me chaining together a couple of draw twos in a very meaningful way. Never mind. Assuming my opponent can draw that Force of Will, which, you know. Am I just eating fourth Aerlingas right now? Okay. Okay. I think I start with what's bad in my deck. Shadow Spear's not super impactful. Pithing Needle's pretty narrow. I am probably just going to replace those with a couple of counter spells. I can get a little more threat dense if I want, but I don't really know what I'd cut. So let's call this good. I am hoping to use Force of Will and Force of Negation to, like, leverage the fact that I have some cards that can pull ahead relatively early on in the game. These Thoughtcast style decks often just outvalue blue control decks, but Up the Beanstalk has really changed that equation a lot. All right, what are we looking at? Probably not a reasonable opener. This is going to be fine. The Tameshi is the slowest thing here, so I will probably just pitch that. We'll go land go, intending on playing Patchwork Automaton on turn 2, so it starts scaling up, and then we'll hit my opponent with Bowmasters after that, as it seems appropriate. I think I just need to play this card immediately. I am less certain about whether or not I am supposed to crack the bauble. I think I keep the bauble in play for now. Like, it's early enough that I'm not going to have consistent metalcraft, assuming, you know, this gets removed at some point, and cost reduction for something like Thoughtcast also matters quite a bit. Tameshi came back. I think I'm just going to hold up Bowmasters for right now, because it seems like my opponent is going to cantrip in the next turn cycle or so. Hello. Pay a life for the Bowmasters. Will I get to live the dream? It's at least in play. Okay. Oh, baby. Despite the fact that Orcish Bowmasters is absolutely everywhere in Legacy, the dream of doing this is actually surprisingly rare, because everyone knows to play around it at this point. So this is worth a lightning bolt worth of damage. I'm not going to immediately just eat a Terminus. Sure. Okay. My opponent's at 11, facing 4, 5, 6, 7 damage. Cool, cool. Leyline Binding. That have to hit the token here? Going for the Bowmasters. Sure. Not sure if I hold up Bowmasters in this next turn or just play Thoughtcast. Kind of want to do the Thoughtcast while it's still castable. And what I mean by that is if this eats a sweeper or a removal spell, I am down to just 2 artifacts, and this costs 3 mana instead. So I think I am probably on... Oh. What if I play this off Ancient Tomb? Loading a mana. Nice. I play Mox Opal. Metalcraft is on. Now I can hold up Orcish Bowmasters while not extending another creature into a potential Terminus off that Brainstorm. Okay, cool. Wasteland. Oh yeah, I'll respond to that. I'll just play the Bowmasters. If I play Bowmasters and ping my opponent, that puts them to 5. Damn. Sure. I still think I probably lethal my opponent next turn, so they Teferi bounce the Orc. Sure. Anyway, they Teferi bounce the Orc, and then I just have to play 2 artifacts. And my opponent dies. Look at a random card over there. There's an Up the Beanstalk. Sure. Okay. This is cast. So this is 1. Okay. So play Seat, play Tameshi, Oh, that returns it to play. That's not cast. So let's try to find the last artifact that I need here to get lethal this turn. I have failed, unfortunately. I've got Force of Negation. Just thinking about which land I play. I think I play Urza Saga. And I will just be sending this creature at my opponent's dome. I have 2 lethal threats on board, backed by a counter spell and an Urza Saga token for the following 2 turns as well. And also just Otawara a blocker out of the way. Sure. My opponent can Wasteland Urza Saga. I can get it back later. That's fine. 4 life is still dead to Patchwork Automaton. I start moving towards hard cast. Force of Negation. Oh, I see. Force of Vigor. So they will pay the ward cost, tapping themselves out. Oh, fuck. Teferi. What? 7 mana. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, I have 6 mana. I'm thinking about what I want to do with this Otawara. Could just go like 4 mana Otawara, bounce the Urza Saga, replay the Urza Saga. And also just play the Tameshi as a 2-3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 3. That's fine. I also have some very cute lines where I Otawara this out of play and Bowmaster ping my opponent. Yeah. Alright. So Seat. Tameshi? Absolutely brutal. Now I don't have Otawara open this turn, because I was hoping my cost would be reduced by 1 for having a legendary creature. Hopefully that doesn't matter, and I just have the time that I need. This would be a really bad time for an Uro to come down, for example. That's frustrating. That, on the other hand, is quite good. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Alright. I think I send this at the Teferi, so that the Teferi isn't just an automatic answer to Kappa Cannoneer. Alright, there's Kappa. Which is resolving. Alright. Hoping to dodge a removal spell on the Kappa here. Alright. Uro's in play. Opponent's up to 7. They are not technically facing lethal. They are 1 artifact away from facing lethal. So if this resolves, I have 7 on board. And this becomes unblockable, and this flies. Send at my opponent. Alright, cool. We have to get there in another game, though. Force of Negation, a little awkward versus Teferi. I don't really know how much I'm respecting Teferi, though. Like, my opponent has so much removal that I don't know that this is where I want to be. Yeah, I think I'm good. It's possible 2 Brazen Borrowers is better than 2 of these Force of Negations, though. Just that when the Force of Negation is good, it's one of my best cards. Ooh, neither one of these have had enough starting mana. I'll go to 5. On 5, I'll keep this. It just feels real bad. Real bad. I basically need to spike another land. That's kind of like another land. I don't think I'm going to play Elvish Archivist on turn 1. I think I'm just going to play this and pass. And then try to draw a land on turn 2 as to not give up a Lotus Petal, because these Lotus Petals are are the thing that's going to allow me to cast Thoughtcast and Thought Monitor, which is what gets me out from under this initial mulligan. Alright. I think I am going to do this now. It's very awkward giving up a Lotus Petal, though. Sure. And then I will leave this bauble in play. Alright, sure. Unfortunately, I am in past the turn territory until I get some more mana. And I think I'm going to lose to like Uro or 4th Aerlingas or whatever here pretty handily. My opponent just makes a land drop and passes. There's something resembling a chance. So now I play one of these out. And don't expect Emry to stick around. Sure. I am comfortable conceding to that. A Minskin Boo after I get wastelanded off my only land is gonna do it fast. Now I know what you're thinking. Maybe I should try CEDH. Well, friend, you're right, because it's a really fun format, and my sponsor, Eminence Gaming, runs a lot of cool CEDH events. And sponsored plug aside, CEDH is growing, and more people are picking up the format. You can find more articles, more resources than ever, so it's a fantastic time to check out the format. And if you enjoy it, check out Eminence's events. They're legitimately a lot of fun. Okay, this is not an impressive hand. I need another land to get going. I'm just going to ship that one. This is probably a weird looking keep. I think I get rid of Mox Opal and intend on playing this game a little slowly. F. We're playing against Dredge, so time is not on my side. Alright. I don't think I am going to immediately cash these in or looks at a Force of Will, because I would need to hit both Force of Will and blue card off these two draws in order for me to counter something this turn. Whereas these baubles are worth a good amount of power over the next few turns. Not that blocks are going to be the best, but what's my graveyard hate look like? Your Cabal Therapy resolves. Good luck. Absolutely good luck. If you hit, you have earned it. What's my graveyard hate look like? Not a lot. Not a lot for an 80 card deck in particular. Lotus Puddle. Alright. So to get my green, I'm going to have to play the first one of these, unfortunately. If I play this, I'm about to get dazed. No. Okay, I mean, I guess I could still get dazed, because I know it's in the deck. Alright, it's in play. I'll now cast this bauble to try to start scaling this up. Because of Cabal Therapy, I don't crack these right now. Again, having to hit both a force and a blue card at the same time is not the most likely thing in the world. Alright. Also, I still don't technically have green mana without an artifact in play. I'm probably going to just put a Shadow Spear into play next turn. Gross. My opponent's now going to have access to a therapy that can take my other Elvish Archivist. Not going to be great at clearing bridge from below. Okay, taking one. And I think I crack one bauble. Alright. Goodbye, Archivist. But they don't know about the Shadow Spear. Yep. Actually, I guess with the Elvish Archivist gone, it does become slightly more reasonable to start getting rid of baubles. I do just have like affinity and pseudo affinity cards that I care about, though. Oh, there was a second therapy there that I missed. So I guess I now crack both baubles. I just have to find new pieces of gas. There's only one Shadow Spear, but I do have ways of getting it back. All right, we've seen Golgari Grave Troll in hand. Emry's great. No artifact for this to produce black mana. Oh. Man, no artifacts at all. Yep. Alright, so Kappa Cannoneer plus Shadow Spear is a cool long-term thing that I can do. In theory, I can also Legend Rule an Emry to clear bridge from below. That's just really hard in my 80-card deck, though. I'm going to face down lethal damage maybe 2 turns from now. A lot of it just depends on whether or not they have something crazy left, like a breakthrough. Sure, that's fine. Are you going to give me a chance to get rid of your bridge from below? No, you are not. I do not blame you. So I can target Shadow Spear, cast Shadow Spear, equip Shadow Spear, have 1 mana left. That seems reasonable. Alternatively, actually, I can cast this Shadow Spear. That scales this up. What if I Orcish Bowmasters and ping my Orcish Bowmasters to stop Bridge from Below tokens from happening? And then next turn, I gain a gajillion life. That sounds pretty good. I've got Force of Negation available for a counterspell on my Bowmasters. I think I have to let that go. Plus, like, the more copies of Bridge from Below my opponent has in Graveyard, the better for me. Alright, 1 Icarid hits play. No Dredge. I guess I don't need 2 Bowmasters and ping the Bowmasters anymore if my opponent is attacking, as long as I don't kill this. This costs a gajillion life. Hopefully that's fine. I'll ping a zombie. Go to blocks. Block one of these. Block one of these. 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9. I think I'm just going to soak up 2 more life here. Alright. Goodbye, bridges. Icarid goes away. So I can play Patchwork Automaton. The Icarid can come back. I can play this. Scale this up. Could still be good. Shadow Spear, equip this. I gain 7 on the attack, putting me to 11. My opponent has 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 damage. So as long as I can block 1 damage, I'm fine. I don't know why we're pausing here. I'm just going to assume that my opponent has stepped away from the computer, because if you have a removal spell of some weird spinning darkness-esque variety, you fire it off. Not expecting like a snuff out or anything here. Okay, they're back. I will crash in for my 7. Sure. I'll end up dealing 6 points of damage to my opponent. And what are they going to do, like Thug and Narcomoeba to the top of their library? They are. And now there's 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 damage incoming. Cool. I'm going to target an Urza's Bauble. Cast this. We're going to scale up the Patchwork Automaton. Not super expecting that to do a lot. Like, it probably is just going to trade with a zombie. Okay, no bridges. There's another Otherworldly Gaze. Ooh, Coliseum is scary. Sure. Okay, a Hogak. And a bridge on that one. Hogak's a bit of a problem. Yeah, I was prepared to Force of Negation a... whatever that card is called. I was prepared to Force of Negation this. Yeah, your Cabal Therapy resolves. Yep, that's the name, because that's the thing that stops Hogak. I only have 3 artifacts. Not really enough for me. So if I block with Patchwork Automaton, I can take out a bridge from below. I might need to just keep Patchwork Automaton for Metalcraft purposes. If I'm going to get myself out of this, I need some flyers in play. I might just eat all this damage. And then hopefully I just run hot next turn. Yep. This draws me a card. A good start. Orcish Bowmasters. Still 3 artifacts. So this costs 4. The next one after it would cost 3. I need to scale this up with an artifact. Now a 9/8. This can block Hogak. Orcish Bowmasters can do cool things a couple of different ways. It's probably producing 2 bodies. This currently costs 3 mana. Does this save me 2 points of life to cast? Yes, because it can block a zombie. So I will cast this. So this blocks Hogak and gives me +1 life. I'm at 3 life. I can block a couple of these. I can ping a Narcomoeba. Block 4 zombies. 1, 2, 3, 4. Meaning that I take just lethal damage. Alright, let's do this again. So I ping a Narcomoeba and block 4 zombies. Oh, damn it, I'm just short. I guess I can still have my opponent mess up. I can't attack with this because I need it to block this Hogak because it does have trample. Oh, fuck, there's also Icarids. Yeah, then I think I'm done. These lands just costing me life every turn has left me just short of being able to stabilize. And my opponent's got 1 card left. So they did not have a lot of extra time either. Ooh, only 1 Icarid got brought back. Alright, moment of truth. Now they have shoved. I'm going to do this just to make sure I didn't mess up the math somewhere along the lines. Force of will. I will force of negation it back on principle. So, ping a body. You get your token. So, I block this. Block this. I block a handful of zombies. This is 5 incoming damage. Or wait, did I just like totally just not count all my lifelink? Yeah, I just totally did not count all my lifelink. What? Okay. So the Hogak comes back. Sure. Yeah, I just totally did not math my lifelink. I had a better line there that made this game easier for me. Okay. I think I'm good. Also think I cash in these baubles. Or Emry can turn them into thought monitors. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 artifacts. These cost 3. I don't know, my mana is probably just going to Urza Saga and replaying a bauble. Let's do that. Just take more draws at something that grows Patchwork Automaton. Alright. Gain life is a thing. So, play land drop. I think I want to scale this up. Yeah, I think I want to scale this up and try to hit my opponent for 11. And then I can move this over here post-combat. If my opponent doesn't block with Hogak, I ping them to death with Bowmasters. Yes. Send it. Alright. My opponent takes 11. 1. A life. Bowmasters. Bowmasters ping for lethal. I played that game like shit. 1 anyway. Actually, that's not super fair. I played most of the game fine. I just played the most important turn like shit. Alright. Soul Guide, Fairy are good. Force of Negation is playable to get things started. And then, like, there's some other stuff that is technically playable that I'm probably not going to mess around with. That was like a mold of 5 or something, right? Like, that's why I just didn't have artifacts going that game. Sounds right. So in theory, the way that I win is probably like that, right? Like, I end up Archivist or Patchwork Automatoning plus Shadow Spear. That's how I stabilize. The artifact count for Thought Monitor could be tough. I'm going to assume that taking Pithing Needle out for Cephalid Coliseum specifically is okay. Tameshi seems slow. That can probably go. I will need 2 more cuts. These are flyers that block Narcomoebas. That's relevant if the board gets stalled. I am going to hope that I can just not lose to a couple of Narcomoebas, though. I also just do have a giant Yorion body. That's a weird hand. So I could Lotus Petal, Chalice on 0, Emry with Force of Will and Fairy backup. However, Chalice on 0 is pretty bad. With any... Well, it's not any land. This one might be good enough to risk it. Honestly, maybe should have boarded Chalice out. I'm going to risk this one. I think this one gets improved by enough things that I just do this. I let that resolve. I let my opponent discard the 2 cards, and then I nuke the stuff they put in with Fairy. Alright. So get rid of Bridge and Stinkweed Imp. I think I am not going to play out Lotus Petal Chalice Emry on turn 1. I think I'm going to try to wait one more draw step. Leaves me with a Dazable Force of Will. But I don't want to give up the Lotus Petal anyway. That needs to put my initial threat into play. Okay, great. Bobble. Petal. There's the old cost reduction trick again. Now Emry can rebuy Lotus Petals. Do I care about Metalcraft? No, I care about drawing lands. Bridge from Below potentially coming if my opponent draws that card. They do not. Yeah, I regret not boarding Chalice of the Void out for just literally any blue card. Pass turn? Pass turn? Rats. What is this gonna be? At 3 mana. 2 mana is a 1/1 creature of some kind. Yeah, that's more what I was expecting. Okay, that's not bad. Emry. Target Lotus Petal. Cast Lotus Petal. I guess I just hold this because this doesn't actually produce mana right now. I'm not expecting Cabal Therapy on Mox Opal. And then sometimes next turn, I get to play this and start scaling it up immediately. Dread Return into the yard. Don't believe that was in there in game 1. Would love for them to miss a Dredger right now. Okay, they did miss a Dredger. So you're telling me there's a chance. Ooh, hoo hoo hoo. Dread Return could happen this turn if my opponent hits another Narcomoeba. No. Icarid can happen next turn, though, with multiple Bridge from Belows. Sure. Force of Will is great. How do I want to do this? Force of Will gets paired with this. A sack for green. Lotus Petal. Cast Lotus Petal. Play the Archivist. Force of Will. Is this worth my Force of Will when Dread Return is in my opponent's graveyard? They don't have a way to get something to Dread Return into graveyard right now. I think it is. Alright. So then I play the Opal to scale that up and pass the turn. Icarid chills in there without a black creature to put in. Now we're living off the top. That's a scary one. There's no dredgers in there right now, but that is just 3 looks at something that could be catastrophic, such as a Cephalid Coliseum. Yep. Alright. Oh, Ashen Rider in graveyard. That's real good. Okay. I just don't have anything that messes with that. Emry find Lotus Petal. Cast Lotus Petal. Do this. Patchwork Automaton for 2. This is a 4/5. I don't want to attack because Bridge from Below. I think I'm going to lose to Dread Return on Ashen Rider. Both of our clocks are surprisingly low here. Yep, I will take that damage. Alright, knew that was coming. Yeah, I needed my opponent to miss that turn they drew the Brainstorm. Then I think I'm potentially okay. I am just going to F6 the next couple of turns and let my opponent kill me and just burn a few seconds of their clock. Okay. And after doing so, we're not quite up a minute. So we can both play much faster. I might want to play Pithing Needle, so Cephalid Coliseum can't, well, has less of a chance of getting me as a concession on time. I guess I could Haywire Might and target my own stuff as a way to clear Bridge from Belows. I don't think I'm going to do that. Alright. Pithing Needle, Cephalid Coliseum on turn 1, Urza Saga on turn 1, going towards Graveyard Hate, Chalice of the Void on 1 on turn 2. Nothing to pair with this Force of Will. Alternatively, Saga on turn 2. I don't think I like this one enough. Alright, Ancient Tomb. Bobble, Opal. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Kappa Cannoneer probably happens on turn 2 a good portion of the time. Keep this pitching Bowmasters. Yeah. I can also consider Force of Negationing the first thing that my opponent does. I don't think I'll do that, though. I think the Force of Negation backing up the Kappa Cannoneer afterwards is just better. Alright, so my opponent's just going to hard discard to put something into graveyard without me being able to interact with it. That's a miss. Not going to cast Emry, I don't think. I think Emry gets pitched to Force, and I keep Kappa Cannoneer to try to actually win the game in a timely fashion. Alright, Grave Troll goes down. Alright. Tempt Kappa Cannoneer. Devastating Force of Will if my opponent has it, because I can't force back. So now that I have blown Kappa Cannoneer, casting Emry becomes reasonable. Hoping for a bad dredge here. That's a Cabal Therapy. Also a Dread Return. And there's that card. Alright, take a Lightning Bolt worth of damage. I'm at 15. Cabal Therapy resolves. Thought Monitor is something that I've sideboarded out, but I think is a reasonable name from their position. Alright, they are going to go deeper and take my Emry. That's fine. Urza Saga. So if I double Bobble here, I lose access to blue mana. I think that's fine, though. Maybe it's not. Maybe I just keep these for artifact count. Just go Saga, Shadow Spear as my intended plan. Sure. Oh, multiple bridges is scary. That Icarid is still there, and there's a Thug that can fuel it. So be it. I'm going to F6 my opponent's turn. Try to grind those seconds back. Yeah. Did not successfully Urza Saga through the deck in time. Oh, fuck, they hit Ashen Rider. Okay. At least there's not an Icarid in play this turn. But life's not great. What does it is target permanent. Like an Urza Saga without using any life. Is Patchwork Automaton worth at least 2 life? Probably. I'm gonna lose the Urza Saga itself. I probably need to cash in both of these trying to look for a blue card. Okay. Now, Patchwork Automaton off this. I'll have Urza Saga token. And then try to find some blue cards. I could give up an Urza Saga token to put Yorion to hand and make it so Dread Return never resolves. Yes. That's fine. I can make another token next turn. Has not been a typical game versus Dredge. Well, I'm really glad I did that. Alright. So my opponent knows about Force of Negation, I guess. They saw it from my hand. Alright. Force of Negation, target Dread Return. I mean, show me a counterspell, and it is gross for me. This is still really bad. Like, just to clarify. Oh my god, another Cephalid Coliseum. And Hogak. Rough. Ball Therapy. Now they can hit both of my Archivists as well. Okay. Shadow Spear is about the best thing that I can get here. I think everything just leaves me dead to this pile of stuff, though. Oh god, I don't even have Metalcraft. Okay. Alright. Make a dude. Get the Shadow Spear. Cast the Bobble. Shadow Spear. Equip. On the Construct token. I am definitely dead. Unless my opponent times out during the attack. Which is possible. But pretty unlikely. I guess I could have farmed them a little harder on individual seconds here and there. But they've clearly got this one. Oh! Oh my god. Okay. Winning with 0 on the clock. Rough. Today's video is sponsored by moxfield.com, which is just the best place to keep your online deck lists. And one of the things that I love about them is that you can use it to keep track of what cards you do and don't have for a deck. So for example, in this deck list, I have all of the cards, so there are nice blue bubbles filled in here, and that's automatically ported over to your collection tab, where you can see exactly what cards you do and don't have. All right, what are we working with here? I have no artifact for this to produce any sort of colored mana, meaning that this hand is a mulligan? Turn 1 Shadow Spear, turn 2 Chalice of the Void, have Force of Will, Pray? Is that better than going to 5? Maybe? Let's say yes, but it sure doesn't feel good. Alright. Ugh. I am definitely feeling the cost of running these extra colored cards. The Archivist has been interesting. Tameshi has almost been good once or twice. Alright, we're potentially playing against some sort of like Black Saga Storm deck. Oh, wow. I'm going to let my opponent resolve that one, because it potentially loses them a lot of life. So that means they stopped at Dark Ritual. Got it. Yep, I'm going to let that go. I got to get to 4 for a Beseech. I'm just going to hope that they don't have like Duress and Beseech. Force of Will. Cool. So I'm casting Chalice of the Void this turn. I believe that I am casting it on 1 specifically because they are playing Spoils of the Vault. I've got 2 artifacts in play. And hopefully I can refuel. That's a lazy concession. Game is not over. But I'll take it, I guess. Alright. Bluster in. Force of Negation in. Haywire Mites can exile artifact lands and artifact mana that is preemptively played out. Soul Guide Lantern and Fairy have some text in that they can disrupt Gaia's Will based lines. So those may end up coming in. Pithing Needle and Shadow Spear can probably go. Tameshi is probably the slowest card in my main deck. That can probably go. Opponent is unlikely to physically draw cards, so those can probably go. That would give me all of these. That seems fine. Alright, Mox Opal, Lotus Petal. Don't have mana to actually cast anything. This is a hand that has a Force of Negation to start with, which is fine. This improved by enough draws that I can actually keep this. How many lands am I running? 22, 23, 24, 25. All these. Plus any one of these also buys sometimes. Emry's reasonable. I think this is good enough. I'm treating this as a 2-piece of interaction hand, assuming that Chalice of the Void actually does end up resolving. And my opponent is on 5. Yes. Oils underneath. Duress is acceptable. Taking the Chalice. Alright, so land. Lotus Petal. Mox Opal. Haywire Mite. Turning on Mox Opal. Sack this for green to get rid of Chrome Mox, and again, this game is not over. Alright, what are we working with here? Saga, Petal, Bauble, Bauble, control 3 artifacts. Cast Thoughtcast on turn 1, try to get into something that casts or activates Urza Saga immediately. It's a little risky. I'm on the draw. I get another card to start with in the first place. That card is a land. I end up liking this hand a lot. I'm gonna try to keep this one. Again, though, definitely feeling like the strain of the colorless lands versus these cards despite their power level. Chalice. It's a little less good with this already in play. So I think I'm going to try to approach this differently against this onboard threat here. I think I'm going to go this direction to try to scale this up and just try to spike the land. I was supposed to crack to make an attempt at Force of Will. Okay. Endurance. I'm gonna just cry if my card is Force of Will and I get punished for playing a little loose. It was not. Still feels pretty bad though. So I will Shadow Spear. Scale this up. I've got a 4/5 that gets to attack. And this is going to be a very, very large creature. However, I expect that my opponent can beat me from here. Sure. Ooh. They are not just going to wasteland me immediately. They're going to activate Reclaimer instead. Sure. Float of mana. Hithing Needle is pretty good here. I can shut off Reclaimer so that it can't activate. Scale this up. I don't really have anything that I want to cast for 1 mana, and I've already put an artifact into play this turn. So we'll just keep hitting. And this is the struggle here, right? Like, this creature is good. It scales up so fast. The mana is just rough, though. Okay. Are we going to get a Grist and invalidate my Archivist? Knight of the Reliquary. Okay. That's fine. So, play this, turn it into a 8-something. But I imagine there's some sort of Maze of Ith or something over there that stops my Archivist from going all the way. Sure. Take 2 more. 14. Scale up. 10-10. Representing theoretical lethal, but I think it is very theoretical lethal. Yep. Alright. Life's bad. Sure. So at this point, my opponent just needs to have enough creatures that they can kill me in a single turn. And they've got all the time in the world for that to actually happen. I'll continue to scale up my stuff, but we're done here. My opponent can also work towards just a Dark Depths kill, presuming that they do have it, which this, indicates pretty strongly that they do. Second Maze of Ith, yeah. Gross. I think this is enough. Dismember for my opponent's creatures seems reasonable. Brazen Borrower to bounce some stuff is reasonable. Force of Negation isn't the best here. I'll probably ship those out. And Orcish Bowmaster doesn't kill a bunch of my opponent's stuff. That puts me at 78. Full Guide Lantern can just be an artifact that sometimes clears a graveyard for knights or something. And could play 1 Force of Negation for Green Suns. Or I can just play 1 Haywire Might as another thing that is just an artifact that I can put onto the battlefield. Alright, I have kept an ever so slightly awkward hand in that if my opponent doesn't play something that I can dismember on turn 1, my hand's a little bit slower than I would like it to be. It's very good against like Green Sun for Dryad Arbor or just Elvish Reclaimer Pass, and it's very bad versus Wasteland. Alright, my opponent just passing the turn here. Thoughtcast. Sure. I can play Mox Opal, which will not be turned on this turn, but then that turns on Spire of Industry for colored mana. Feels like my opponent has Swords to Plowshares. I think I'm just going to cast one of my more expensive cards this turn. I will not be able to dismember during my opponent's turn. Did not eat immediate swords, which is cool. Sure. Hour of the Magistrate, absolutely. Okay, there's the Wasteland. There's another reliquary. That's killable via dismember. It'll sting a bit. So I think I would like to greatness at any cost. Play Archivist. Play Bobble. Scale up both. This still isn't on. Use target creature. There's the colorless. 4 life to take that out. I don't think I cycle this Bobble. But I would like to, in theory, turn on this Metalcraft, because that's how I am going to get blue mana as this game goes on. If my opponent wastelands Spire of Industry specifically, I might need to crack this, because finding a land or... sure. Okay. Finishing the thought, because finding a land or another castable artifact are both good. Force of Vigor coming. Okay. Noted. I'd like to find a 0-cost artifact. Ugh. Let's try to find one. I'm at 7. I've dealt all of that damage to myself. Damn, did not find 0-cost artifact. So now I have to Force of Will and Endurance if my opponent flashes one in to block this attack. Pew pew pew. Yep. Force of Will, pitch Emry. I have dealt 14 points of damage to myself. My opponent takes 4. Oh, Urza's workshop thing has never even produced 2 mana, let alone the 3 that I joked about in the intro. Oh, fuck. That's bad. That's bad. That puts me to 2. Ancient Tomb is no longer on. I think I can still, in theory, beat this. This is Artifacts Enter. This is Artifacts Enter. So, bam, Artifacts Enter. One of those can now kill this. Is it fine going to 1? I think so. An Ancient Tomb. Emry is castable now. Alright. We will not be putting Yorion into our hand this turn. This attacks and kills Minsk and Boo. And then this can block that. I did not really hit a good artifact. I guess I've got Bobble. Yeah. 3 toughness. I am exactly dead. Even after blocks. Alright. GG's. Alright. Final round here. Hand's definitely a keep. We're gonna do some hot Patchwork Automaton stuff. And this card is going to scale up very quickly. Because, like, we are not only going to have the spells that we have now, but we are also going to have Emry following it up. 3/3. And we'll burn Lotus Petal. Alright, Emry's in play too. That's great. I think I just cycle this immediately. Prismatic Vista. So probably playing against some sort of fair control deck. We're gonna hope that the Emry sticks around. Ooh. My opponent might be in trouble if they don't have an actual sweeper. Ooh, the Emry gets to live a turn. That means it gets to scale both Patchwork Automatons. I think we're going to beat most hands where they don't have Terminus and be fully dead to Terminus. That is my current evaluation of this situation. Chalice is cool. I am going to do this in a little bit of a weird way. I'm going to go ahead and Bobble. I'm going to see if Terminus is coming. Is Terminus coming? No. Volcanic Island is coming. I still think I'm going to play the Chalice instead of just going and committing both of my bodies on the board immediately. This just means that my opponent does not have the ability to easily set up a Terminus now. Alright. I don't want more copies of Ottawa here. I want more gas and draw twos. Alright. Sure. Just fetching immediately. Well, regular cantrips aren't happening. I'm just bobbling again. I guess I can play an Otawara then. Not take damage. So there's another Patchwork Automaton. And next turn I can start doing Thought Monitors now from Graveyard. Sure. Send it. And this is going to go under Supreme Verdict. So Blind Terminus could do it, I guess. Otherwise, I don't really see myself losing. Yeah. We are the beatdown. So given that I saw Prismatic Vista, I'm going to assume that we are playing against some 3 to 5 color control deck list of some kind. I don't really know that I'm going to majorly sideboard. Haven't seen a lot of the specifics. I don't know if it's like a pile of 4th Airlingas. I don't know if there's green in there for Burrow. It would make me want to Soul Guide a little bit harder. I'm going to get rid of the Shadow Spear. Is Fluster better than Force of Negation, given that it's a little hard for me to hold up blue? I'm going to turn that into a Force of Negation. The blue mana situation's a little awkward. But this just casts a Kappa Cannoneer on turn 2. Okay. I think I am just going to accept that. Urza Saga, Blue Lands, Patchwork Automaton, Chalice of the Void are all good draws. And I'm sure there's a bunch more. Baubles are reasonable. Strix is quite bad. Yeah. The double-colored pips on this are brutal. Given that we have never cast Yorion in this league, I think trying to jump through extra hoops for Strix is maybe not a great idea. Alright. Let's do it. It will be bad versus Force of Will specifically, and pretty reasonable versus most other stuff. Unfortunately, they do have the Force. I can Thoughtcast next turn. It's gonna come at a decent life total cost. I only have 1 artifact. Please don't 4th Airlingas me. Okay, that's not 4th Airlingas. I'm good with that. I don't think you're supposed to bounce the bauble. That actually helps me. Like, legit. That being in my hand for a Patchwork Automaton trigger, for example, matters. Alright. I guess I'll cast these. They do reduce the blood price of Thoughtcast by 1. And hopefully we draw like a Chalice or a Patchwork Automaton. Am I cycling these? Yeah, I think so. Pyroblast coming. I am still going to just cycle both at the same time. Alright. Force of Will is almost good, except like that we know that my opponent just drew Pyroblast. Yep. Also, we've got this problem to solve too. Okay, Comet Stellar Pup. Not getting Force of Will here because of Teferi. And I want to make some squirrels. Those are going to kill me relatively quickly, unless I get more colored mana. This is too late. I'll cast this. This is still worth 2 life to do. Does stop a decent amount of stuff. I like that Comet will solo me. This costs 3 mana. Go to 8. Urza Saga. Not bad. I still think Comet is just going to solo me though. Yeah, we played the don't have exactly Force of Will game. Okay, I am dead to squirrels next turn. And Comet has some other very gross things that can happen on a 4 or a 5 that just also one-shots me. Yeah, let's toss it in. So now I'm in this situation where, like, I know Teferi is in my opponent's deck, which my counterspells are bad against. But I also have Comet to stop, which will do a number on my life total. I think I am into this again, like talking myself out of it previously. And I think I'm just going to go down a Baleful Strix for being a little bit hard to cast. No colored mana. It's brutal. I don't think this deck should be running Urza's Workshop. I think it should be running more colored sources. Alright. This hand doesn't exactly do anything. Play Seed on turn 1. On turn 2, Bobble Bobble, Urza's Saga, Thoughtcast. Hope to ride Urza's Saga from there. I'm going to hope that that is reasonable. And I'll pitch a Thought Monitor. Seat, pass. Alright, cool. I don't have appropriate mana for that. Which sucks. So we will Bobble. Bobble. Now control 3 artifacts. This costs 2. I need a land drop. I hit a land drop. We're good. I will leave these in play for now. What are we looking to dodge from my opponent? I guess Null Rod just instantly wins the game. March on Urza Saga is very good. Okay. You're 1 card too late. Hoping that's fine though. This is a 1 mana Thoughtcast. Pithing Needle. That's acceptable. I'm gonna play that as a mana rock for Kappa Cannoneer. Oh my god, my opponent let it resolve. Yes. I will name your Prismatic Vista then. I have a Force of Will or Force of Negation to back up a Prismatic Ending or whatever on Pithing Needle to turn this back into a land. We got Meltdown. Meltdown. I'll Force of Negation that. Pitching Force of Will. Nice. And now we're just looking to hit 1 more artifact or land for Kappa Cannoneer. Very nice. We're improvising. Notably, do not have black mana for an Orcish Bowmasters. Hopefully that doesn't matter. Like, hopefully I just swing Kappa Cannoneer about 3 times and my opponent dies. Alright, I lose Pithing Needle. Prismatic Vista turns into an actual land. This does have Ward 4. This next turn cycle is very pivotal for me. Black mana is insane. Emry's great. Chalice is great. Urza Saga's great. Bobble's quite bad. Not what I'm looking for. I'm swinging in, and then the question is how many of these baubles do I crack? I'm going to crack both of these. Just get a feel for what's in my opponent's hand for sure. What the fuck is Aragorn? Vigilance, lifelink. Become the Monarch. Whenever it attacks, up to 1 target creature can't block this turn. If you're the Monarch, creatures can't block. Okay. Let's take another look at a card over there. It's Aragorn again, unfortunately. I think I'm going to cash all of these in. Force of Negation from my opponent. I think I just want to cash all of these in and find either counter spells to protect Kappa Cannoneer, or more things to feed to Kappa Cannoneer, or black mana for Bowmasters. Okay. That was some good stuff. That is acceptable. These are still artifacts, which matters a lot right now. Urza's Saga no longer does cool stuff. So let's go 2 mana Patchwork Automaton. Scale this up. 1 mana Mox Opal. Scale both up. Just yield to that. Drop this. Go to combat. Hit my opponent for 8. And I will have Orcish Bowmasters for if they brainstorm, which will put them right into the range of lethal. This has Ward 4, so I don't imagine it's easily going anywhere. And Supreme Verdict is not currently happening. You may absolutely become the Monarch. I am good with you becoming the Monarch, friend. That is not an optional draw card. Yeah. So we don't put up a positive finish, but we do get some play points back. All right, so I think this is a good news, bad news league. The good news is that we learned that Elvish Archivist is surprisingly scary, and it's possible that this card could have a home somewhere in Legacy. However, we also learned that the mana in this deck is pretty rough. Especially since a lot of times you need to sacrifice a Lotus Petal to play one of these cards, meaning that the second one that you draw is not nearly as castable as the first. And just kind of thinking about the mana, it's rare that we need a ton of colorless mana. It's more common that we needed the colored mana to kind of kick things off, especially since you really want green on turn 1 or turn 2 for this card. It's possible I missed an Urza Workshop activation at some point in this league for the Metalcraft ability being relevant. It's hard to focus on everything while you're recording with a new deck. But we certainly never really had an opportunity to do this for like 3. Like, it's very possible that I missed, tapping it to do Urza Saga off 1 less land or something. It's very possible that I missed one of those. But we did not live the big dream with this card. We put Yorion to hand once to have a blue card to pitch to Force of Will, and that was the extent of what Yorion did in this league. So I would not be willing to run back this multicolored Yorion pile like this. If you told me you wanted to play blue-green 8-cast splashing for Elvish Archivist in a traditional, 60-card build, I think I would thumbs up that idea. Especially if you want to be low to the ground and you really want to have that aggro approach. Say you just felt like going fast was the way you wanted to pilot this deck in some given metagame. I think that's reasonable. Tameshi did not do anything in this league. It was a turn cycle away from being played once or twice and would have been reasonable. But I think once you start trying to focus this deck list a little bit more, I think this is kind of one of the weak threads here. I will say we played interesting games of Magic that were dynamic. This was largely an enjoyable and intellectually interesting league to play, and I don't regret trying things out. One more thing regarding mana, this being a pain land alongside Ancient Tomb as well as Dismember was really rough. So yeah, I think that's everything I have to say, folks. I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day, and if you end up needing to buy some copies of Elvish Archivist or anything else, check out Cool Stuff Inc. and use promo code ThrabenU to save 5% on your order. All right, have a great rest of the day. See ya!